तले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांता स्वामी इति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यादिशितारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय जगद्गुरु श्रीला प्रभुपदा निताय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल। Hare Krishna, Dhanvat Pranam, dear devotees. Thank you all so much for joining. So I'm meeting all of you for the first time in this new year. So I hope all of you are having a great Krishna conscious new year. Although for us, according to our Vedic tradition, this is not really the new year, but still any opportunity to strengthen our vows or take up new vows or make new promises that will help us in our spiritual life are always welcome. So we'll take this as an opportunity where we can promise each other to be more regular in the classes, to be more attentive in the classes, to chant more and with more quality, and to read more of Srila Prabhupada books and study Srila Prabhupada's books. So we can take this as an opportunity to have this New Year's resolution. So we are on the 20th chapter of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila. And this is a very interesting section, like we have been reading, whereby Lord Chaitanya is meeting with a very important personality, and that is Srila Sanatan Goswami. So, in the previous chapter, we had read about the instructions to Srila Rupa Goswami, and now we are reading about the conversation that Lord Chaitanya is having with Sanatan Goswami, and the way Sanatan Goswami escaped from the prison, and he managed to come to Varanasi and meet Lord Chaitanya. That entire section is also very, very interesting, and really tells us about how much love Srila Sanatan Goswami had for Lord Chaitanya. How both the brothers, actually all three brothers, how they gave up all materialistic comforts to go and be with Lord Chaitanya, serve Lord Chaitanya. And then how he meets Lord Chaitanya, the whole interaction is very, very sweet, and their conversation is very knowledge giving. So, yesterday's verse 20.162, right? So, I'll just read the translation once so that we know the flow, and then we'll go with today's verse. So here we are seeing that in this section there are several shlokas. Even today we'll see that shlokas which will come from different scriptures also. So we know in Chaitanya Charitamrita there are shlokas that belong specifically to CC, but there are also shlokas from other scriptures. So today also we'll read some shlokas from Bhagavad Gita also will come today. So, in 20.162, it is said that you should know Krishna to be the original soul of all Atmas, living entities, for the benefit of the whole universe. He has, out of his causeless mercy, appeared as an ordinary human being. He has done this by the strength of his own internal potency. So, this whole discussion about Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagwan has been taking place, and today's section specifically, now the focus will be on the different kind of incarnations of Lord Krishna. Now, as we are reading the verses today, the purports are not long in all the verses. They are just a few verses. We'll try to cover around 20 verses today. Now, all the purports are not long, but then the translations are talking about different technical terms about Lord Krishna's incarnations. So please don't feel overwhelmed by these terms. Okay, we'll read through the verses and then we'll try to understand the different incarnations of Lord Krishna with the help of a chart that devotees have made. Okay, so don't feel scared of these big terms, or don't feel overwhelmed with these big terms. These are very important for us to understand. Why are these incarnations given in so much detail? So that we understand what these incarnations actually are, so that we understand their importance. Because in today's world there are so many fake incarnations also, right? People who are just claiming to be incarnations, and it has happened even earlier, in the earlier decades, where people are claiming to be incarnations of God, but without any without any authority, without any credibility. So as we are reading through these verses, we should know what exactly it means to be an incarnation of Krishna. What is the power of an incarnation? Because we have to be able to distinguish between the pretenders, and we should know that who are the actual incarnations of Krishna. Even now there are people who are claiming to be incarnations. There are many Kalki avatars that are present, who are claiming to be Kalki avatars. So all these things are going on. That is why Prabhupada, we'll read. He has taken so much effort to quote different references from other scriptures to help us understand these terms which will come in today's verses. Okay, so this is a very important exchange that is taking place between Lord Chaitanya and Srila Sanatana Goswami. So let us try to bring in as much focus and attention as possible for us to be able to understand these incarnations. So, our both these approaches, one where we just ignore these technical terms and think it's okay, I as long as I know Krishna is Supreme Lord, nothing else matters. Why do I need to know what kind of incarnation the Lord takes? That approach also is not correct, because whatever ability we have, we should try to at least understand to the best of our ability. We may not be able to understand 100%, but we should try to the best of our ability. So that approach where we totally ignore this information is also wrong. And the other approach is also wrong, where we get totally scared and then stop reading the books itself because we think, oh, these terms are too difficult for me to understand. So that also is wrong. So the approach that is correct is we try to read the scriptures to the best of our ability. Prabhupada has explained them very nicely. He has made it very simple. So let's try to focus and understand these terms. Okay. Shobha Mataji, you want to read
Hare
20.163?
Krishna, Dandat Pranam Mataji. This is
Mataji.
Bhagavad Gita shloka, right?
Yes, Mataji. It's a shloka from Bhagavad
Atava bahu
Gita.
naitena किं ज्ञातेन तवार्जुन विस्थाप्याहम् इदं कृत्स्नम् एकात्सेन स्थितो जगत्. Translation to A.C. Bhaktivedanta Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada ki jai. But what need is there, Arjuna, for all this detailed knowledge? With a single fragment of myself, I pervade and support this entire universe. Haribol, thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. So, Prabhupada is saying in the purport that this is a quotation from Bhagavad Gita. This is 10th chapter, verse number 42. Now, here in this shloka, what is the Lord telling Arjuna? He's telling Arjuna that there is no need, no point in understanding how things exist in their separate opulence and grandeur. When he is saying that he should know, Arjuna should know, and all of us should also know that all things are existing due to Krishna's entering them as super soul. So we don't have to get confused and be in this questioning mood all the time. Oh, how is this alive? How is this having life? How is this happening? How are all the planets there? Always in this confused mode. It's not required. We have to understand that everything is taking place because Krishna is present. He is saying with a single fragment of myself. That means as Paramatma, he is present everywhere. He is pervading the entire universe. He is supporting the entire universe. That is why everything is existing. That is why the planets are in orbit. That is why the sun is rising. There is air. All these things are happening because Krishna is pervading everything. Okay, so from Brahma, the first created being, the most gigantic entity, the greatest person, down to the smallest ant, everything, every single entity is existing because the Lord has entered each and every atom and is sustaining them. The Lord has entered each and every living being and is sustaining them. That is why everything is taking place. And here also Prabhupada mentions in the purport to the Bhagavad Gita shloka that worship of demigods is thoroughly condemned, thoroughly discouraged herein, because even the greatest demigods like Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, they represent only a part of the opulence of the Supreme Lord. Yes, they are very great personalities, the Devis, Devtas, they are very great personalities. Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, they are very, very great and worshipable for us as devotees of Krishna. But their opulence represents only a small part, only a fragment of the part of the fragment of the opulence of the Supreme Lord. Lord Krishna is the origin of everyone who is born, and no one is greater than Lord Krishna. This is what we have to understand from this verse. And when we read the 10 offenses to the holy name, there also it is mentioned, right? That it is an offense to consider the names of demigods like Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva to be equal to or independent of the names of Lord Krishna. So, this entire understanding comes from this verse that everything is coming from Krishna and He is sustaining everything, He's pervading everything, He supports this entire universe, and demigod worship is thoroughly discouraged. Okay, so now let's go to the next shloka. 164. Uma Mataji, Uma Kulkarni Mataji, you want to read?
Yeah, yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna. भक्ते भागवनेर अनुभवा पूर्णरू भक्ते भगवानेर अनुभव पूर्णरूपा एका हि विग्रहे तांड्रा अनंत स्वरूपा Translation by A.T. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada is like, only by devotional activity can we understand the transcendental form of the Lord, which is perfect in all respects. Although his form is one, he can expand his form into unlimited numbers by his supreme will.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. So here it is mentioned that the Lord is one, his form is one, but for different reasons, which we'll see today, he can expand his form into unlimited numbers, and that is by his supreme will. He doesn't have any obligation, but he does so out of his supreme will. Now, there will be some incarnations which will come for a reason, and the form the Lord takes will be for supporting that particular reason. Like in the Dashavatara, we see there are some forms which the Lord takes according to the time that is taking place, like the yuga that is there. Then in the span of each manu, then there are some incarnations which of the Lord who are empowered living entities in this way, and then there are different complexions, like Lord Ram's complexion is different, Lord Krishna's complexion is different, Balramji's complexion is different, forms of the Lord in different incarnations are different. So all these incarnations the Lord is taking out of his supreme will. Okay. And how can we understand all this? Here it is mentioned, it is only by devotional activity can one understand the transcendental form of the Lord, which is perfect in all respects. The form of the Lord is perfect in all respects. But if we don't have devotional service, then we'll not have that vision or the ability to be able to understand all these things. When a devotee has love in the heart, then they will accept scriptures very easily. It is so enjoyable to read the scriptures. But if there is no love and we just have a very skeptical mindset and we are reading, for example, this section itself, the escape of Sanatan Goswami. If somebody is reading with devotion in their heart, like all of you are reading, then it is so joy giving, right? And it is full of thrill, isn't it? Last time when we were reading, Sanatan Goswami was just about to escape from the prison house. We didn't want to stop. And that happens in every class. We want to read more and more because there is love in the heart, like you all have. But if there is no love and there is just a doubt or a skepticism, then all these things will not really speak to the reader. So the incarnation, the transcendental incarnations of the Lord, the transcendental form of the Lord can be understood only by devotional activity. So the glory of devotional service is highlighted in this verse. Okay, it is very, very important. Sumati Mataji, you want to read 165?
Hare Krishna Mataji,
Hare
Dandavana.
Krishna.
Swayam Rupa Tadekatma Rupavesha Nama Prathameti Na Rupe Rahena Bhagavan. Translation by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The Supreme Personality of Godhead exists in three principal forms, Swayam Rupa, Tadekatma Rupa, and Avesha Rupa. But should I read?
I'll read Mataji because we'll just discuss point by point. Thank you, Mataji. So I'll just, as I mentioned earlier, these purports now the different terms will come, the different types of incarnations of the Lord. Okay. So as we are reading through the verses, I'll just lightly touch upon the point, the explanations, but we'll understand all these things very nicely when we see the chart. Okay. So please don't worry. So here it is mentioned that the forms of the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he exists in three principal forms: Swayam Rupa, Tadekatma Rupa, and Avesha Rupa. Okay. Now Prabhupada will help us understand these things by reference to other scriptures. So Prabhupada is mentioning that Srila Rupa Goswami has described the Swayam Rupa in his Lagu Bhagavatamrita, Purva Khanda, verse 12, Ananya Pekshi Yad Rupam Swayam Rupa Sa Uchyate. So this form of the Supreme Lord that does not depend on other forms is called the Swayam Rupa, the original form. So Lord Krishna has one original form and that is not dependent upon any other forms. That is the original form of Krishna with the flute and the two-handed form when doing all the pastimes in Vrindavan. That is the original form. This form is also described in Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishnastu Bhagwan Swayam 1.3. 28. And Krishna, it is mentioned that Krishna is the original form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That form, that Krishna's form as a cowherd boy in Vrindavan is the original form of the Supreme Lord. Then this quotation from Brahma Samhita, where it is mentioned in 5.1 that Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha Anadiradir Govinda Sarkaran Karanam. So there is nothing superior to Krishna. Krishna to Bhagwan Swayam, he is the Supreme Lord, he is the cause of all causes. And then Bhagavad Gita 7.7, Matta Parataram Nanyat 7.7, where Krishna says, there is no truth superior to me. So that is the Swayam Rupa of Krishna, the original form of Krishna. Then there is another form of Krishna which is called as Tadekatma Rupa. Tadekatma Rupa of Krishna, again from Lagu Bhagavatamrita it is mentioned, Yad Rupam Tad Abhidena Swarupena Virajate Akrityadibhir Anyadrik Satadekatma Rupaka. The Tadekatma Rupa forms exist simultaneously with the Swayam Rupa form and are non-different. So the Tadekatma Rupa forms are also the Supreme Lord. They are also called Bhagwan. They are also Supreme Personality of Godhead. But their bodily features and specific activities, they are slightly different. So they appear to be different. The Tadekatma Rupa forms are divided into two categories, Swamsha and Vilasa. We'll discuss all these in detail later. Then there is a third type of form of Krishna which is called an Avesha form. These are explained again from Lagu Bhagavatamrita as Jnana Shakti Adi Kalaya Yatra Dvishto Dhanardana Ta Avesha Nigadyante Jiva Eva Mahattamha. A living entity. Now the Avesha forms of Krishna, they are actually living entities who are specifically empowered by the Lord with knowledge and strength for some particular purpose, and they are called as Avesha Rupas of Krishna or the Shakti Avesha Avatars. As stated in the Chaitanya Charitamrita Antya Lila 7.11, Krishna Shakti Vina Nahi Tara Pravartana. Unless a devotee is specifically empowered by the Lord, he cannot preach the holy name of the Lord all over the world. This is an explanation of the word Avesharupa. Okay, so there are devotees who are specifically empowered, like Narad Muni. They are jivas, but they are specifically empowered so that they are able to perform a specific function. So empowered with knowledge, empowered with strength, and we know how Narad Muni goes about preaching all over the universe. Okay, so these are specifically empowered entities, the Avesha Rupas of Krishna. Okay, so we'll come to the different terms a little later. Now let's move on to the next verse, 166. Swati Mataji, you want to read?
Yes, Mataji, Hare Krishna. Swayam Rupa Swayam Prakasha Duirupe Spurti Swayam Rupe Eka Krishna Vraje Gopa Murti. Translation by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The original form of Lord Swayam Rupa is exhibited in two forms, Swayam Rupa and Swayam Prakasha. In his original form as Swayam Rupa, Krishna is observed as a cowherd boy in Vrindavana. Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you, Dhanat.
Thank you, Mataji. Dhanat Pranam. So the original form of the Lord Krishna's original form, we see in two ways. One is the original two-handed form of Krishna as a cowherd boy in Vrindavan. That is actually Krishna's Swayam Rupa. He's playing the flute, and this form never changes. And he's doing all these different wonderful pastimes. That is Swayam Rupa. Then there is Swayam Prakasha form also. Swayam Prakasha means, Lord Krishna can take different type of expansions. And Swayam Prakasha further has two classifications as Prabhav Prakasha and Vaibhav Prakasha. So we'll come to that. But for this verse, we understand that the original form of Krishna, which is called the Swayam Rupa of Krishna, is the two-handed flute playing cowherd boy form of Krishna. That is the original form of Krishna. That form never changes. Okay. Now let's go to the next verse, 167. Krishnamurti Prabhu, you want to read?
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Krishna Prabhu.
Prabhava Vaibhava Rupe विविध प्रकाशे eka vapu bahu rupa yachiya aila rase. Translation by A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Prabhupada. In his original form, Krishna manifests himself in two features, Prabhava and Vibhava. He expands his one original form into many, and as he did during the Rasa Leela dance. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhu. So the Prabhav Prakash form of Krishna, that is when the Lord expands into multiple forms. Like uh, he married 16,108 queens in Dwarka. He was simultaneously present with everyone. So that Krishna does through his Prabhav Prakash. And also when he was in the Ras Leela, he was all the gopis had Krishna with them. So he had expanded for the gopis. So that is also through Krishna's Prabhav Prakash form. And Vaibhav Prakash, we'll read about that later. But for now, Prabhav Prakash is when Lord Krishna expands into multiple forms. His original form into many, as Prabhupada, as it is mentioned that as he did during the Ras Leela dance. Okay. Sindhu Mataji, want to read?
Yes, Mataji. Pranams, Mataji. 20.168. Mahishi vivahe haila bahuvida murti prabhava prakasha shastra parasiddhi. Translation by Divine Bliss Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. When the Lord married 16,108 wives at Dwaraka, he expanded himself into many forms. These expansions
And the expansions at the Rasa.
and the expansions at the Rasa dance are called Prabhava Prakasha, according to the directions of revealed scriptures. Hare
Thank you, Hare Krishna. So when the Lord, here it is mentioned, like, he had different palaces for different queens, 16,108 wives at Dwarka. He expanded into many forms. So every queen had their own Krishna. These expansions and the expansions at the Rasa dance are called Prabhava Prakash, according to the directions of the revealed scriptures. Okay. So now let's go to the next verse. So these are terms that we should try to remember. Okay, Krishna expanding with all the queens in Dwarka and Krishna expanding in the Rasa Leela. These are all through Krishna's Prabhava Prakasha expansions. Okay. Shubha Mataji, want to read 169?
Very bold Dandavad Pranam Mataji, 20.169. सौभारी आदि प्राया से काया व्यूह नया काया व्यूह हैले नारधेरा विस्मया नहाया. Translation by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The Prabhava Prakasha expansions of Lord Krishna are not like the expansions of the age of Saubhari. Had they been so, Narada would not have been astonished to see them. Haribol Dandavad Pranam Mataji.
So Sabhari Muni had expanded through his mystical powers into different forms because he wanted to marry many wives. But that expansion is not the same as Krishna's expansions. Okay. Sabhari Muni, through his mystic powers, through his tap, he was able to make different versions of himself. But Lord Krishna's expansions as the husband of the different queens in Dwarka was very different because each form was complete in itself and each form was very personal. When Narad Muni, that's why it is mentioned that why was Narad Muni astonished when he came to Dwarka? Because he was seeing Krishna in all the different palaces. And it's not that Krishna was, all the different forms were doing the same thing. Each form was interacting in a very personal way with each of the different queens. At some places, he was talking to the queen. At some places, he was having his meals or he was playing with his children. In this way, he was doing different activities in different places, although he was Krishna himself. And that is why Narad Muni was astonished to see all the different forms of Krishna. So sometimes, like, a magician may do a magic trick and he may appear in different 10 forms, that is all just theatrical tricks. So that is not same as Krishna's expansion. Krishna expands. Krishna is there everywhere, and he is interacting personally with each of his queens. He was dancing in the Ras Leela, and he was dancing with each of the gopis. Each of the gopis were personally feeling Krishna's presence. Okay, so that is the greatness of the expansion when Krishna does it. Okay. Padma Mataji, you want to read next verse?
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam. Seiva Puseiya Kriti Pratak Yadi Bhase Bhava Vesha Bhadde Nama Vaibhava Prakashe. Translation by Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. If one form or feature is differently manifested according to different emotional features, it is called Vaibhava Prakasha. Thank you, Mataji.
Mataji, 170. We are on 170.
170.
Mm-hmm.
But she read that, no, Mataji?
Huh? Yes, Mataji?
Yeah, she read that earlier. Mataji,
169 was read. Now we have to read 170, Mataji.
Okay. Chitram pataitan ekena vapusa yugapat pratak griheshu dvya asta sahasram striya eka udabrahat. Translation by Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. It is astonishing that Lord Sri Krishna, who is one without a second, expanded himself in 16,000 similar forms to marry 16,000 queens in their respective homes. Thank you, Mataji. Dandavat Pranam.
Thank you, Mataji. So this verse is spoken by Narad Muni. So Narad Muni's astonishment is mentioned here. He himself is saying that it is astounding that Krishna, he has expanded himself in 16,108 forms, similar forms, to marry 16,000 queens in their respective homes. Okay, and he was very, very personal with each of the queens. Okay. Now 171. Swati Mataji, you want to read?
Seiva Pusai Akriti Pratak Yadi Bhase Bhava Vesha Bhede Nama Vaibhava Prakashe. Translation by Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. If one form or feature is differently manifested according to different emotional features, it is called Prakasha. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Dandavat Pranam. So here it is mentioned that if one form or feature is differently manifested according to different emotional features, it is called Vaibhav Prakash. So Prabhav Prakash is when all the forms are similar. So that is the expansion of Krishna in Dwarka with the different queens and in Ras Leela. There is also Vaibhav Prakasha, where there are some differences. One form of feature is differently manifested according to different emotional features. So they don't look exactly alike. The forms in this Weber Prakash expansion, they don't look exactly like Krishna. There will be some differences, like Balramji. Balramji, as we know, he's also the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but his features are different. His pastimes are different than Krishna. So that is Krishna's Weber Prakash expansion. Okay. Now let's go to 172. So would someone like to read the next shloka, 172?
So, Mataji, we can call it as Balram's Leelas, right?
Yeah, Lord Balram's Leelas, yes. So he is also Supreme Lord.
Yes,
But
Mataji.
different, pastime is different, pastimes are also a little different.
Yes.
So that is Vaibhav Prakash expansion of Krishna.
Okay, Mataji. Thank you.
Krishnamurti
Hare
Prabhu,
Krishna Mataji.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Ananta Prakasha Krishnara Nahi Murti Bheda Akara Varna Astra Bhede Nama Vibheda. Translation. Mataji, little bit scroll, Mataji.
Yes. 1 minute.
Translation by A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Prabhupada ki Jai. When the Lord expands himself in innumerable forms, there is no difference in the forms, but due to different features, bodily color, and weapons, The names are different. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. So here it is mentioned that we are reading about the different expansions of Krishna. He's expanding into innumerable form. So it is important to understand that all these forms are coming from Krishna only. They are Supreme Lord only. There may be different bodily features, colors, weapons, like Lord Ram. His pastimes are different from Krishna's pastimes. Balramji's pastimes are different. Narasimha's pastimes are different. But these forms are all eternally Krishna. They are all God. They are all our Supreme Lord. They are all worshipable. We have to remember that all these forms, they may look very different, have different pastimes, but they are all expansions of our same Supreme Lord. So in Srimad Bhagavatam in 10th canto, 8th chapter and verse 13, it is mentioned that it is to be understood that the Supreme Being, whether appearing as Shukla, Rakta or Pita, that means whether he is coming in a white complexion or a red complexion or a yellow complexion, it is the same person. When he appears in different incarnations, he appears in different colors. It is just like sunshine. Now, sunshine, we know, has 7 colors. Sometimes the colors of the sunshine are represented separately. Otherwise, the sunshine is observed mainly as a bright light. So sometimes we will see we'll read about Krishna's pastimes as the Supreme Lord. Sometimes we are reading his pastimes when he comes as Parshuramji or Varahadev or Vamandev or Narsimhadev. But these forms are all eternally in Krishna. It is not that the two-handed form of Krishna is inferior because he has only 2 arms, and then Vishnuji is superior because Vishnuji has 4 arms. No, no. All these forms are coming from Krishna only. They are eternally in Krishna. So Krishna's Swayam form, the Swayam Rupa, the two-handed form, is the supreme. But all these different incarnations are worshipable because they are coming from our same Supreme Lord. So this shloka has been quoted earlier also, 1.3.28 of Srimad Bhagavatam. It is called as the Emperor verse. It is a very important shloka that we should try to memorize. Ete chamsha kalapumsha Krishnastu Bhagwan Swayam Indrari Vyakulam Loke Mridayanti Yuge Yuge, where it is mentioned that, before this verse, there are 25 incarnations of Krishna which have been mentioned. And then in this verse, it is mentioned that all these incarnations are either, expansions or expansions of plenary expansions of Krishna. But Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Whenever there is any problem, Indrari Vyakulam Loke, wherever there is anxiety, he comes in these different forms. But Lord Krishna is the same, he is the original Supreme Personality of Godhead. There are different reasons why he comes in incarnations, like for executing specific functions. Okay, like all these different dashavtaras that we read about, or to diminish the burden of the earth. He says now in Bhagavad Gita that he's coming to annihilate the miscreant, to re-establish the principles of dharma, so to lead people to God consciousness, obedience of religion, or to spread Krishna consciousness everywhere. These are different purposes because of which he takes incarnations, but all these incarnations are eternally in Krishna. Okay, so now let's go to 173.
Mataji, sorry to interrupt.
Yes, Mataji.
Sloka number, Srimad Bhagavatam 1328.
Yes, Mataji, 328. First canto, 3rd chapter, verse number 28.
Okay, thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Uma Mataji, you want to read 173?
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Anye cha samskritatmano vidina vihitena te yajanti tvam maya tvam vai bahumurti ekamurtikam. Translation by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. In different Vedic scriptures, there are prescribed rules and regulative principles for worshipping different types of forms. When one is purified by these rules and regulations, he worships you. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, although manifested in many forms, you are one. Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. So it is mentioned here, and this verse is from Srimad Bhagavatam, that the Vedic scriptures, they talk about so many rules and regulations, so many regulative principles for worshipping different forms. When one has done all these rules and regulations, followed all this, then he worships you, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he comes in different forms, but he is one. So Prabhupada is explaining that in the Vedas it is stated that the one becomes many. Eko Bahuswam. The Supreme Lord, he comes in different forms. Vishnu Tattvas, Jiva Tattva, Shakti Tattva. Then according to the Vedic literature, there are different regulative principles for each of these forms. If one has done all the, the whatever the regulations from the Vedas, and then he has purified, oneself, then he worships the Supreme Lord, Krishna. So Krishna in Bhagavad Gita 4.11, he says, Mama Vartmanu Vartante Manushya Partha Sarvasha. So he says that worship of demigods is, in a sense, worship of Krishna, but avidhi purvakam. It is done improperly. So, and then also that it is mentioned that demigod worship is actually meant for unintelligent men, because they are worshipping just a, someone who's representing only a fragment of Krishna's opulence. Where you have the option of worshipping the source of everything, you are worshipping just one fragment. So that is why it is called as unintelligence. One who is intelligent considers the words of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Krishna is saying, you give up all forms of religion and surrender to me, I will take care of everything. Sarvdhamma dharman paritajya. Then the intelligent people will follow Krishna's words. And then Prabhupada is mentioning in the end that one who worships demigods worships the Supreme Lord indirectly. But according to the revealed scriptures, there is no need to worship him indirectly. One can worship him directly. Lord Krishna, his worship is full of so much joy. So why to go and read all the Vedas and do all those difficult pujas and yagyas and vidhis and fasting and all that, when we can directly worship Krishna, and this process is so joy giving. So why do we have to go to that indirect method when we can do it directly? Okay. Now let's read 174. Swati Mataji, want to read?
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Vaibhava prakashe Krishnera Shri Balarama Varnamatra Veda Sabha Krishnera Samana. Translation by Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada teaches. The first manifestation of Vaibhava feature of Krishna is Sri Balramji. Sri Balram and Krishna have different bodily colors, but otherwise Sri Balram is equal to Krishna in all respects. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. So, as we read earlier and discussed earlier, that Vaibhav feature, the manifestation of Vaibhav feature, the first manifestation is Balramji. They have different bodily colors, but otherwise Balramji is same as Lord Krishna in all respects. So, devotees explain that Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Balram ji is the Supreme Personality of Servitor Godhead. He is also Supreme Lord, but the activities, his pastimes are such that he teaches us how to serve Krishna in all the different rasas. So Prabhupada is explaining in the purport that to understand the difference between Swayam Rupa, Tadekatma Rupa, Avesha, Prabhava and Vaibhav, Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur has given the following description. In the beginning, Krishna has three bodily features: Swayam Rupa as a cowherd boy in Vrindavan, Tadekatma Rupa, which is divided into Swamshaka and Vilasa, and Avesha Rupa. This will become clear when we see the chart. Okay. The Swamshaka or expansions of the personal potency are Karanadakshai, Garbhodakshai, Kshirodakshai, and incarnations such as the fish, tortoise, boar, and Narsimha. The Vilasa Rupa has a Prabhava division including Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. There is also a Vaibhav division in which there are 24 forms, including the second Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. For each of these, there are three forms. Therefore, there are 12 forms altogether. These 12 forms constitute the predominant names for the 12 months of the year, as well as the 12 tilak marks on the body. Each of the four personalities of Godhead expands into two other forms. Thus, there are 8 forms such as Purushottam, Achyut, etc. The 4 forms Vasudeva, etc., the 12 Keshav, etc., and the 8 Purushottam, etc., altogether constitute 24 forms. The forms are differently named in accordance with the placement of the weapons they hold in their forehands. So, Lord Vishnu has the four-handed form of Krishna, the different arms, the different hands, in what sequence they are holding all the different 4 items. According to that, also the names change. Okay. So we'll just read a few more verses and then we'll go to the chart. Okay. Would someone like to read this shloka 175? Let me
Hare
know.
Krishna Mataji.
Yes,
Yes,
Prabhu.
Mother.
Okay. So Prabhu, you read this one, and
Yeah.
Mataji, you can read the
Vai-
next one.
vai- वैभव प्रकाशये चे सेवक तनुजा दिव्य द्विभुज स्वरूप कभुहाय चतुर्भुजा. Translation by C. Bhaktivedanta Prabhupada. An example of Vaibhava Prakasha is the son of Devaki. He sometimes has 200 and sometimes 400, 4 hands. Shall I read Prabhupada, Mataji? No.
I'll read it, Prabhu. Thank you so
Okay,
much.
thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. So when Lord Krishna took his birth, in the prison house, he appeared outside the womb and he was in the Vishnu form. Then Devki and Vasudeva offered prayers and then Krishna took the two-handed form. The Lord immediately assumed his two-handed form and ordered that he be transferred to Gokula on the other side of the river Yamuna. Now, here it is mentioned that sometimes he appears in his two-handed form and sometimes in his four-handed form. So that is the different forms that Lord Krishna can take in this pastime. Okay. Mataji, yeah, 176.
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Lord Krishna.
एकाले द्विभुज नामा वैभव प्रकाशा चतुर्भुज हैले नामा प्रभाव प्रकाशा. Translation by Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. When the Lord is two-handed, he is called the Vaibhava Prakasha, and when he is four-handed, he is called the Prabhav Prakasha. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. So according to the different, whether two arms or different form or four arms, it is mentioned that when he is in his two-handed form, that is Vaibhav Prakasha, and Prabhav Prakasha is when he has four hands. Okay, in that particular pastime. Okay, now let's read 177. These are just shlokas; they don't have purport, so we can read a few more. So, anyone? Mataji, Prabhu, anyone? Yeah, Padma Mataji? Yeah.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Swayam Rupera Gopavesha Gopa Abhimana Vasudevera Kshatriya Vesha Ami Kshatriya Jnana. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. In his original form, the Lord dresses like a cowherd boy and thinks himself one. When he appears as Vasudeva, the son of Vasudeva, and his dress and consciousness are those of a Kshatriya warrior.
Thank you, Mataji.
Krishna Mataji, Pranam.
So, like we have read earlier, that the original form of Krishna is a two-handed form with the flute doing the pastimes in Braj, the cowherd form of Krishna. So, here it is mentioned in that original form, he dresses like a cowherd boy and thinks himself one. But as a son of Devaki and Vasudeva, because those are his Mathura and Dwarka Leelas, right? So, he is a Kshatriya then. Now, he is not a cowherd boy. So, there his dress and consciousness are those of a Kshatriya, a warrior. Swati Mataji, you want to read 178? I think you had started reading the previous one.
Yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
सौंदर्य ऐश्वर्य माधुर्य वैदग्ध विलास व्रजेंद्र नंदने इह अधिक उल्लास. When one translation, when one compares the beauty of opulence, sweetness, and intellectual pastimes of Vasudeva, the warrior, to Krishna, the cowherd boy, son of Nanda Maharaj, one sees that Krishna's attributes are more present. Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you.
Thank you. So, the pastimes of Krishna, right, as a cowherd boy, they are very, very pleasing. So, it is mentioned here also that the beauty, opulence, sweetness of Krishna's pastimes as Vasudev, that means as the warrior, those are lesser pleasant. I mean, they are also very, very pleasant. But if you compare the beauty, opulence, sweetness, and pastimes of the warrior Krishna Vasudev, to, the cowherd boy Krishna, one sees that Krishna's attributes are more pleasant. So the Krishna's form in as a warrior, that is mentioned as Vasudev, and Krishna's form as a cowherd boy, that is Krishna. So Krishna's attributes are more pleasant. His pastimes, his qualities, beauty, everything is filled with more sweetness. Okay. So 179, someone like to read?
Shall I, Mataji?
Yes, Mataji, please read.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Mataji, please.
गोविंदे राये माधुरी देखी वासुदेव रक्षोभा से माधुरी आस्वादिते उपजय लोभा. Translation by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. Indeed, Vasudeva is agitated just to see the sweetness of Govinda, and the transcendental greed awakens in him to enjoy that sweetness. Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. So the form of Krishna as a coward boy is so sweet that, the Vasudev form of Krishna also gets attracted to that. So it is mentioned that Vasudev is agitated just to see the sweetness of Govinda, and a transcendental greed awakens in him to enjoy that sweetness. So yes, these are forms of Krishna only, but one form is full of so much mellow that the other form gets attracted. So the Vasudev form feels attraction to the Krishna form. Okay. Yes, Krishnamurti Prabhu, you want to read? 180.
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Mataji, a style of this way, how to
Yes,
sing?
Prabhu, you can read like the Bhagavatam shlokas, Prabhu. This is not the CC meter. Udgirnadbhuta madhuri.
उद्गीर्णा भूत माधुरी परिमलास्य पिरा लीलस्य मे द्वैतं हन्त सम्यक्षायन् मुहुर्आसु चर्यते चरणः चेतः केलि कुतूहलोत्तरलितां सत्यं सखे ममखं यस्य प्रेक्षाय स्वरूपतं व्रजवधूस्वरूपम् अनिविच्छति. I am very sorry, Mataji. I am
No, no,
I
Prabhu,
am
it's
not
totally
treated well.
fine. It's totally fine, Prabhu. Yeah, it's a
Translation,
normal voice.
translation, basic Bhakti Vedanta Prabhupada ki jai. My dear friend, this dramatic actor appears like a second form of my own self, like a picture. He plays my pastimes as a covered by overflowing with wonderfully attractive sweetness and fragrance, which are so dear to a damsels of Vraja. When I see such a display, my heart becomes greatly excited. I long for such pastimes and desire a form exactly like that of the damsels of Vraja. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna, thank you, Prabhu. So this verse was actually spoken by Vasudev, Vasudev in Dwarka, and this comes in Lalita Madhav 4.19. So here again we are seeing that how Vasudev form of Krishna is finding the Krishna form very attractive. Okay. The next verse also similar theme. So I'll just quickly read through in the interest of time, or if someone wants to read, you can read. Anyone? Yeah, Swati Mataji, please read, Mataji.
हरे कृष्ण माताजी माधुर्य याचे गांधर्व नृत्य दर्शने पुनः द्वारकाते ऐचे चित्र विलोकने. Translation by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The instance of Vasudeva attraction to Krishna occurred when Vasudeva saw the Gandharva dance at Mathura. Another instance occurred in Dwarka when Vasudeva was surprised to see the picture of Krishna. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Mataji, Hare Krishna. So it happened in two instances. One is when he's seeing the picture of Krishna in Dwarka, and the other is when he saw the Gandharva dance at Mathura. So in both these instances, Vasudev felt an attraction for Krishna. So this means Krishna's form is so beautiful and so wonderful. Okay. Now let's read this shloka 182. Swati Mataji, you want to read?
Yes, Mataji. अपरिकलिता पूर्वक चमत्कारकारी बृहत्तु मम गरीयन् एष माधुर्यपूरा आयम् अहम् अपि हन्त प्रेक्षयं लुब्ध्वा चेता सराभासम् उपभोक्तुं काम्ये राधिके वा. Translation by Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Who manifests an abundance of sweetness greater than mine, which has never been experienced before, and which causes wonder to all. Alas, I myself, my mind bewildered upon seeing this beauty, impetuously desired to enjoy it like Srimati Radharani. Shall I read purport, Mataji? No.
I'll read Mataji just one line. So this is recorded by Srila Rupa Goswami and Lalita Madhav. Again, this verse is spoken by Vasudeva in Dwarka, and he's talking about the sweetness. Who manifests an abundance of sweetness greater than mine. So more sweetness than the Vasudeva form, and he's saying that my mind is bewildered upon seeing this beauty. He's desiring to enjoy it like Srimati Radharani. So that is the beauty of Krishna's form. Sindhu Mataji, you want to read this shloka? 183.
Yes, Mataji.
Sorry.
Hare Krishna. 20.183. Seva binna bashe kichu binna kara bhava vesha kriti bede tat ekatmanam tantra. Translation with Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki jai. When that body is a little differently manifested and its features are a little different in transcendental emotion and form, it is called Tad Ekatma.
Thank you, Mataji. So the Tadekatma form of Krishna is when the features are a little different from Krishna. Okay. Let's stop at 183. 183. I'll just quickly take 2 minutes to share the chart. Okay. This is the chart of incarnations of Lord Krishna. Here we'll see all the terms that we discussed today. Okay. So the font is a little small. I hope you can probably zoom in and try to read. So first is a Swayam Rupa form of Krishna, original form of Krishna, the cowherd boy in Vrindavan. That is Krishna's two-handed form with flute and all the wonderful pastimes, cowherd form. This Swayam Rupa, the form of Krishna, then again from that comes the Swayam Prakasha and then Vaibhav Prakasha. Okay. Now Swayam Prakasha, that means these are his own manifestations of Krishna, and from that comes Prabhava Prakasha. We were reading about Prabhava Prakasha today, right? Where the multiple forms of Krishna, where he's with the gopis and the queens of Dwarka. So that is Prabhava Prakasha, that comes from Krishna's Swayam Prakash. Then the Vaibhav Prakasha. Vaibhav Prakasha is the Tadekatma Rupa that we were discussing about in the last few verses. Now the Tadekatma Rupa, these are expansions which will have some different moods and some different bodily features. Tadekatma Rupa also, there are two classifications, Vilasa and Swamsha. The Swamsha incarnations, the manifestations of Krishna, are of 6 categories. There are the Lila avatars of Krishna, like Matsya, Kurma, Varaha, Narsimha, Vamana, who come for different pastimes. Then the Purusha avatars of Krishna, Karunadakshay Vishnu, Garbhodakshay Vishnu, Shirodakshay Vishnu. The Guna avatars, that is Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. Then the Shaktavesha avatars. Shaktavesha avatars are the empowered living entities who are representatives of the Lord. Then Manvantara avatars, who come in the span of each Manu, and then Yuga avatars, Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapar Kali. Each Yuga has a different Yuga avatara, and they have different complexion. Now the Vilas, category of Tadekatma Rupa, those are the 4-armed Vishnu forms expanded in Vaikuntha, and they are expanded from Balramji. Now there we have Prabhava Vilas and we have Vaibhav Vilas. Okay. So I'll share this chart with Sita Rani Mataji. She can share it in the group so that you can read the minute points also. But basically what we should try to remember is that Krishna has a Swayam Rupa which is his original two-handed form, the cowherd boy who's playing the flute. And then he has the Swayam Prabhav forms, Swayam Prakasha forms, sorry. Swayam Prakasha forms is where all these different incarnations are coming. Okay. Now, of these incarnations, some of them will have same opulences as Krishna. Some will have slightly lesser, smaller quantity of opulences. But we have to understand that the potency may be slightly different in the different incarnations, but they are all coming from Krishna only. They are all worshipable. They are all forms of Krishna. And the two-handed form of Krishna is the supreme worshipable. And uh, just because it is a two-handed form, it seems simpler, doesn't mean that the form is actually a less in potency. Actually, that is the most potent form of Krishna. It has all the opulences, all the incarnations are coming from that one form of Krishna. And we read the shloka from Srimad Bhagavatam also 1328, very important, where it is mentioned. Actually, before the shloka comes, if you go read Bhagavatam, all the different incarnations are mentioned, and then this shloka comes to prove this point that Krishna, and which form is Krishna? It is this two-handed form of Krishna, the cowherd form of Krishna. That is the supreme. Everything is coming from that form of Krishna. So our worship, should be directed to that form of Krishna. Yes, different devotees may find some other forms of the Lord more sweeter, because that is their personal relationship with the Lord. Like for some, they worship Lord Narsimhadev with more affection, or some worship Lord Narayan with more affection, or Lord Ram with more affection. So that is each devotee's personal connection with the Lord. But we have to understand where each incarnation stands, how great each incarnation is, and how great our Lord Krishna is, from whom all these incarnations are coming. So if we just, you just visualize this chart itself, that all these Vishnu forms, all the Manvantara avatars, all Lila avatars, Shatyavesha avatars, everyone is actually coming from Krishna. Okay, so that is the greatness of the Supreme Lord. Everything is emanating from Him. Okay, so we'll stop here today. If there are any comments or any questions.
Mataji, I have one question.
Yes, Mataji.
I'm just saying this text 166, they say, the original form of the Lord Swayam Rupa is exhibited in two forms, Swayam Rupa and the other
Yes.
one in his original form as Swayam Rupa. If his original form.
Yes.
Then temples, why do they decorate him with lot of flowers and all that? Why can't they wear his clothes as a cowherd boy? This question was always coming to my mind.
Mataji, in the cowherd form also, Krishna used to be decorated with flowers, because all these things were
No
found in the
flowers,
forest.
not flowers, Mataji. It's just
Hmm.
like a sash, around the on the forehead, without
Okay.
putting so many fans and all that, and without putting so much decoration, jewelry.
Mhm.
But that form looks more attractive. The
Yes. Mataji,
how
that I think we see that difference in different temples. We will see temples where the form is more simpler in decoration. Then there are other temples, and actually on different days also. Some days, which are special days, there the decoration is more opulent, and then other days the decoration is very simple. You see the Mangalarti darshan or the Shayanarti darshan. It is very simple. Krishna is, you will see that the form that you are talking about, very
yeah.
very simple decoration. But the opulence actually, Mataji, is because the kind of mood in which we are worshipping the Lord is also Lakshmi Narayan worship,
Mm.
because the opulence of the Lord is also respected, right? And Prabhupada used to say na, that whatever is best, we have to offer that to Krishna. So
Yeah.
there will be temples which are just doing very, very simple decoration, because that is the best that temple has to offer. But then there will be other big temples where the worship can get a little more opulent, because the form of Narayan is also included in the form of Krishna only, na?
Yeah.
So it is not wrong to decorate Krishna in a very opulent way, but still you will see that the decoration of Krishna, even though very opulent, is different from the decoration of Lord Narayan. Lord Narayan will still be different. Lord Krishna, even though very opulently dressed, he will still be dressed in the pagdi, in the flowers,
Yeah.
and some jewelry. But so that is just the expression of love of the devotees. And
Okay.
one thing, which I had heard from a devotee saying is that this is when Hanumanji is talking to Lord Ram, and he says that you should cover your body with more, clothes and flowers, so that your actual beauty doesn't really become visible. Because you
Oh,
are so beautiful, Lord, you should hide your beauty a little. I mean, Hanumanji is saying this out of love. I
yeah.
heard a devotee saying this. So actually, in whatever way we see the Lord, whether he is dressed very opulently or he is dressed very simply, you will see that he's beautiful in every way, right? So
Yeah.
I think, what my personal opinion is that it is the expression of love of each pujari, how
Okay.
they are seeing the Lord. And nighttime, the Lord is dressed very simply. And when he used to go when Krishna was playing with his cowherd friends in Braj also, it is mentioned that they would bring lot of flower decorations and decorate Krishna. And then different colors of, different metals that were found, they would decorate Krishna's face with that also. And even some devotees have mentioned that even with jewels, whatever was found in nature, they would decorate Krishna with that. So everything is Krishna. So, different devotees express their love through different kind of decorations, Mataji. That is
Okay.
my understanding.
Okay, Mataji. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare
Very
Krishna.
beautiful point. Hari Bol. Okay.
Mataji,
So,
Hare
yes,
Krishna
Mataji.
Mataji.
Yes, Mataji.
In one native one this thing, one instance of translation it is given, no? Which is just instance, Mataji. One instance of Vasudeva's attraction to Krishna occurred when Vasudeva saw the Gandharva dance.
Gandharva dance, and also in Dwarka when he saw the picture of Krishna. So you want details of that pastime, Mataji?
Yeah, that
Okay.
first one.
I'll just the Gandharva dance.
Yeah, Mataji.
Okay. I'll find out that, Mataji, and I'll share it with Sitarani
Okay,
Mataji.
okay,
You can share that. Okay.
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 This one, I think, by seeing his picture only, he was second one,
Yes.
no? Another instance.
In
That
Dwarka.
is,
Like
yes.
Gandharva
Yes.
dance, I'll
Yes,
find out, Mataji. Good point.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes.
Okay. Thank you all. Thank you so much for joining. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Guru Maharaj ki jai. Vancha kalpatrubhyascha kripa sindhubhya patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavyo namah. Anant Koti Vaishnavi.
Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Pranam. Thank you all so much.
Pranam, Mataji. Thank you so much.